were released. And Garrett Ross put up the list of the teams based on the college football standings. There's the entire top 25. You can look around at all the other names and all that. That's fine. But the ones at least that matter is kind of who's hovering. The top 4, Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, Michigan, Alabama. And, of course, there's a lot of debate about TCU. Then Oregon, USC, LSU. Those are the top 10. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'll have my opinions. The chat room's already going at it. And so is the text line, and go.
We're going to have Boo Corrigan's audio in a minute from the 2 questions asked him about TCU and Alabama last night, but I'll just break it down. I've thought about it every which way but loose, and I don't think this committee has the fundamental understanding of doing this thing without Alabama. Look, Alabama's a one-loss team. They might find their way into it, but this whole thing, he says, well, we don't look at conferences, we look at teams. Really? Then how come most of the top 6 is 2 leagues? Why? Because you're looking at conferences. Now, you may fool yourself into believing that you're not, and the group think in that room may fool yourself into believing that you're not, but, you know, to use the logic, and then when you reapply it to everybody else in that list to keep TCU below Alabama is just silly. It's just silly to say TCU was behind in some games. Well, Alabama finished behind in 1. That's called a loss, jackass. I mean, come on. You've got to be better than that. And the other thing that you need to do is stop just pretending like you don't have biases. And we all know that you do, but just say, we think Alabama's better. That's it.
One person, Craig, and I'll go to you on this, one said, listen, let's just look this is what the committee's seeing. Yeah, TCU's got all of what you want. They're unbeaten. They've got some quality wins against teams that were or are ranked. But listen, what will happen if Alabama played TCU? They'll just go ahead and give you who's going to win the game, which if we did that, then some of the teams in this discussion, at least in the top 25, would never be ranked because they weren't supposed to win some of the games. I am not going to get upset about this because we've been through the worst of 2014. As Daniel Acton said, first time ever TCU and Baylor fans agree on probably something, with TCU at number 7 and perhaps not higher.
I mean, I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about it because this is what they do every year. I mean, we're not really going to sit here and act surprised by their biases, are we? I mean, literally, you could sit there and have this conversation every single year the playoffs been around. They don't watch the games. I was very clear about that yesterday. It's clear when they start talking about TCU's not a complete team, and then they start talking about the complete opposite out the other side of their mouth when it comes to others. Everything is geared towards 2 leagues, with the exception of like a Clemson and an Oregon and perhaps a USC, but then that'll be solved soon, right? So, I think that they're just showing you their full cards and kind of what the beliefs are in terms of what the people in charge of college football think and what it's going to look like forever and moving forward. And, all those people talking about an expanded playoff being basically, like 8 SEC teams or 6 Big Ten teams and 6 SEC teams, and then, couple of, you'd have to have 5 and 5 or whatever and have a couple of others. Yeah, they're absolutely going to try to do that. They don't care, man. They don't care about the college football fan who wants to see maybe more than a couple of leagues. And then, the people in those leagues don't at all try to pretend like they even care about the average fan of a TCU. They claim to be college football fans, but then when it boils down to it, they just care about their league, and they will tell you, oh, well, the SEC is the best. They deserve this. The Big Ten is the best. They deserve this. I don't really think that they deserve anything. I don't think Clemson deserves to be above TCU, and they're not a part of those 2 leagues. So they're an outlier, but yet they get the benefit of the doubt every time for some reason. I don't know if it's just what
maybe because they've won a couple of national
titles. I guess it's that. I mean, yeah, and that's the respect that you get, and so that's understandable to a certain extent. But it's just the same song and dance every year. So I saw this come out. I saw people start ripping their hair out over this, and I just chuckled to myself because of course this is what they did. They just threw up another buffoon on TV who repeats everything like a parrot. That this committee who pretends that they watched a lot of games but clearly don't. Said they do. I said yesterday, they read printouts. They read a bunch of stats, and you're not good here. Well, we're going to penalize you. Unless you're, a part of two leagues, and then you are able to overcome strength of schedule. You're able to overcome game control. You're able to overcome a loss. Whereas in other leagues, you don't look like a complete team. You're number 7, even though you're unbeaten. That's basically what they just went up. And then, give them attention, which I hate that I'm even talking about it because we give them the attention that they want. They're sitting back just chuckling right now like, well, you're still talking about it. Well, kind of have to, covering college football. So they get what they want out of it. They get a bunch of reaction. They get their stupid little TV ratings, and they go back to not really watching most of the games except for, a few teams, and they'll sit back and just hope that they don't have to worry about TCU and that TCU takes a loss. But I saw this reasoning of, well, it's not going to matter. They're going to lose anyways. Maybe not. You guarantee they're going to lose to Texas. You guarantee they're going to lose to Baylor. You guarantee they're going to lose a game in this last month. They very well could. They've been playing with fire, but that's not a guarantee. And so, I think they're just sitting there fingers crossed hoping that it's not anything that they have to worry about. So why show them respect? We're not going to have to show them respect by the end, and we'll only show them respect when we're forced to.
Yeah.
But we're not going to get to that point. So who cares about TCU? Who cares about anybody who hasn't won a national title in the last 25 years or in the last 50 years? They're not a part of our little club anyways. And that's how it always kind of has been to me. That's just what was reinforced last night. And I'm not expecting much out of this committee because I don't really think that they watch much college football.
Well, and some of these teams, we can sit there and say what we want. They have also won national titles recently. Now, there's some that get the benefit of the doubt because of the conference or who they are. And I get that. Again, I'm not going to argue because that's just beating your head against the wall. But if, in fact, they're going to lose eventually, then TCU wouldn't even be in this discussion in the first place. They were picked very down the bottom of the Big 12 preseason poll. LSU, were they ranked really high because of Brian Kelly, or did they start down in the top, maybe 20, 25?
Gary, where were they?
UCLA.
I don't even know if they were ranked.
UCLA, were they in this discussion at the start? No. Kansas State, no. Illinois, hell no. North Carolina, no. Tulane, absolutely not. So, yeah, Oregon State. So some of these teams have, despite whatever the perception is, have put themselves in position. I'm not even using some of those names as the college football playoff because we know that's not going to happen. But, my God, that's why I love the men's basketball tournament, because we get a champion. Everybody plays eventually until you get two teams that play for it all, and it doesn't start with four teams that the College Football Committee or they'll Bill Hancock and them want. Clemson, with this, all due respect, have they looked – now, they turned the corner a couple weeks ago when they played Florida State, but have they looked like one of the four best teams in the country, or are there even four best teams in the country?
Well, look, if you're grading on the TCU standard, I would say that their seasons are kind of similar in that, they play with fire a little bit, but ultimately they're better than everybody that they played, so they win games.
Well, if they play with fire, then Alabama's played with an absolute blowtorch.
Exactly. So, yes, Clemson is there because they have two national titles and they've been in this playoff, and the ACC, for some reason, has a better reputation than the Big 12, which it shouldn't be about reputation.
Because they've won national titles.
Yeah, nothing should be about reputation, though, because you're not doing the playoff of all time. You're also not doing, and I think part of this happens because, look, if I sat and watched Alabama's guys run in jump versus TCU guys run and jump and lift weights, then maybe I'm going to see some better athletes on Alabama because of recruiting. But this is not the NFL Combine they're doing. They're not doing everybody's going to run the 100-yard dash and do 225 on the bench press. This is about earning it, and TCU has more.
Who among the teams behind Clemson have a bigger gripe, Michigan or TCU?
I think both of them do. I think that if the metric is whatever this game control thing is, then Michigan has a gripe too.
Their non-conference schedule's been used against Baylor in the past.
Yeah.
Back 7-8 years ago. Michigan right now, that's one of the things that was brought up. All right.